You need to take it down now. That's what Karen Strickland hissed at me standing on my own lakefront like she owned it. She was trembling with rage binder in one hand, HOA badge glinting in the sunlight. And behind her, her 27-year-old son Trevor, still half drunk from the night before, glaring at me like I was trespassing on his beach. That was the morning everything finally boiled over, the day I stopped letting the HOA president dictate my life. But to understand how I got there, you need to know how it started. 6 months earlier, I'd inherited this place from my Uncle Malcolm, a quiet, craftsman-style home built in the 1950s sitting on 200 square meters of land including 60 meters of private shoreline. He left me a note with his will that said, "Guard the deed like gold Gavin." Some people respect boundaries. Others need to be reminded they exist. At the time, I'd laughed. I wasn't laughing later. Moving to Pine Ridge felt like peace after years in the city. Mornings on the porch, coffee steaming, birds claiming the oak trees, the lake shining like liquid gold. The neighbors seemed friendly enough. One of them, Lorraine, brought cookies and said something odd before leaving, "Keep your paperwork safe." I thought she was just old-fashioned. Then came the knock. Karen Strickland. Blonde, 50-something, perfectly styled, dressed like she was running for office. She introduced herself as president of the Pine Ridge HOA, flashed me a too bright smile, and handed me a 40-page binder. "Just making sure you understand the community standards," she said. I'd barely skimmed the first page when she leaned past me to stare toward the water. "Such a beautiful lakefront," she murmured. "Really, it's something the whole community should be able to enjoy." That line, it should have been my warning. Instead, I smiled politely, told her everything was clear, and went back to work. I'm an investigative journalist, the kind who digs through records and lawsuits for a living. I thought I'd left the corruption behind when I moved out here. Turns out, I just moved closer to a new kind of power trip. The emails started 2 weeks later. Grass too long. Trash bins visible from the street. Porch lights too bright. Photos attached like evidence in a trial. Then came the violations. Karen signed each one in bold. At first, I followed the reasonable ones. Then I noticed her son Trevor camping on my beach. Tent speakers, beer cooler, the works. The first time I asked him to leave, he smirked and said, "My mom says this is community space." When I called Karen, her voice went cold. "The waterfront is a common area, Gavin." The HOA confirmed it. "Maybe your uncle misunderstood." That's when I checked my deed, clear as day. Lot 12 includes 60 meters of private shoreline. No exceptions. I sent her a copy. A week later, I got an official HOA letter declaring my lakefront common amenity space. It even threatened $200 a day fines if I blocked access. I remember reading that letter 3 times, blood pressure climbing with every word. This wasn't a mistake. It was a takeover. And Karen expected me to roll over. Most people probably did. But I've spent 15 years exposing people who thought rules didn't apply to them. So I started digging. The county recorder's office smelled like old paper and frustration. The clerk pulled my property file 3 inches thick. Every survey since 1952 said the same thing. Lot 12, 60 meters of lakefront, privately owned. No amendments, no transfers, no community access. Nothing. I photographed every page. Then I visited my neighbor Quinlan, who happened to be a real estate attorney. I laid out the documents on his desk. He read them, then looked up. "She's lying," he said flatly. "An HOA can't just take private property. If your deed says you own it, you own it. Period." That should have been comforting. It wasn't. Because logic doesn't stop people like Karen, it just annoys them. I requested copies of the HOA meeting minutes. Karen refused, claiming they were available for review at the next meeting. Fortunately, Lorraine, the older neighbor, had her own archive. She brought out a banker's box filled with printed minutes going back 7 years. That's where I found it, November 2023. Review of Lakefront Usage Guidelines. Property Boundary Clarification. 3 signatures. No vote, no public notice, just Karen, her secretary, and her treasurer. Lorraine leaned over my shoulder. "That's when she tried this with your uncle. He called her out. She backed down, but she never erased it from the record. I spent that night building a timeline. Emails, letters, minutes, photos, everything. Forming a pattern. Karen wasn't enforcing rules. She was rewriting reality. By the next morning, I'd had enough. I emailed her requesting a meeting. She agreed Friday, 10 a.m. HOA office. That office was basically a converted storage closet with a motivational poster that said, "Community begins with you." Karen sat behind the desk like a queen on her throne binder in front of her secretary typing on a laptop beside her. "Gavin," she said sweetly, "you seem confused about the boundaries." I laid out the deed survey and county documents. "This shows the lakefront belongs to my property. Always has." She barely glanced. "We conducted a review in 1995 that designated lake access as a common area. Do you have that documentation?" She slid me a paper. It was a survey for the public beach half a mile away. I set it back down. "This doesn't mention my property at all." Her smile twitched. "The designation applies generally." "That's not how property law works." Her tone hardened. "The board has authority to interpret and expand community guidelines." That's when I realized she wasn't ignorant. She was bold enough to pretend. Law didn't apply to her. I reminded her that the meeting minutes showed no vote, no homeowner approval. Her eyes narrowed. "You're new here. You don't understand how things work. If you keep challenging established policy, we have tools, fines, liens, legal action. We can make your life very uncomfortable." I kept my voice steady. "So you're threatening to retaliate if I assert my legal rights?" "I'm saying cooperation makes life easier," she purred. I walked out, phone still recording in my pocket. That threat would come in handy later. That night, I sat on a porch staring at the lake. For the first time since moving in, I doubted myself. Maybe I was making it worse. Maybe I should just sell the place, move on, stop fighting battles that weren't worth it. But then I remembered what my uncle had said. Some people respect boundaries. Others need reminders. Karen needed a reminder carved in cedar and concrete. Monday morning, a survey crew arrived. They measured everything, marked the property line with bright orange stakes, and confirmed exactly what I already knew: Trevor's campground was 15 meters inside my property. I hired a fencing company the same day. I sent Karen one last certified letter. Construction of boundary fence begins Monday, unless HOA provides county-filed documentation proving otherwise. Her response wasn't written, it was personal. She stormed up my driveway binder, clutched like a weapon. "You can't build that fence. I forbid it." "Show me the paperwork," I said. She tried to push past me. "We need to discuss this." "No," I told her. "Either show me proof or accept you're wrong." Her expression shifted from fury to desperation. "Please, Gavin, this will divide the community. Your uncle wouldn't have wanted that." I lost my patience. My uncle spent years fighting your lies. He would have wanted this. The only thing dividing the community is you. She stepped back, jaw trembling. "Fine. But when this goes to court, remember I gave you a chance." I smiled. So did my uncle. The fence went up that Monday. Trucks arrived at sunrise, workers unloading cedar planks and concrete. Neighbors came out to watch. Lorraine brought lemonade. Quinlan gave me a thumbs up. Trevor shouted that I was fencing him in, and the crew leader just shrugged. "If you're inside, you're trespassing." Karen arrived 10 minutes later, tires screeching. She stood there staring at the fence, cutting straight across what she'd claimed was community land. "You'll regret this," she screamed. "I'm calling an emergency HOA meeting." "Great," I said, raising my coffee. "Make sure everyone's invited." By sunset, the fence stretched from the house to the lake, 8 feet high, clean, solid, and legal. For the first time in months, I could breathe. But Karen wasn't done. 2 days later, every mailbox in Pine Ridge got a notice. Special HOA session, unauthorized construction and community harmony concerns. Wednesday, 7 p.m. Perfect. I prepared a presentation. When I walked into that meeting hall, 50, maybe 60 homeowners filled the seats. Karen sat at the front, binder open, wearing her power smile. "We're here." She began to address one homeowner's actions that threaten community spirit. "Mr. Merrick has built a fence blocking access to our shared lakefront." I cut her off. Before you vote on anything, I have evidence. This isn't a trial, she snapped. Then you won't mind the truth. I hooked up my laptop, projected the first slide, my 1952 deed clear as daylight. Gasps from the crowd. This is my property, always has been. No amendment, no transfer. Next slide, the HOA covenants from 1995. These list every common area streets, the park, the public lake access. No mention of private lakefronts. I read one of her emails aloud. HOA regulations supersede individual property claims. Then I showed the county statement confirming no such authority exists. Karen started shouting, "He's twisting this." "Really?" I said. "Because here's the meeting minutes from last November signed by you, Diane, and Thomas. No homeowner vote, no quorum, no legal basis." The room erupted. Lorraine stood up, voice shaking. She did the same thing to Malcolm, tried to steal his shoreline. "Spencer," another neighbor added. She fined me for a fence half an inch too tall. Voices piled on complaints, stories, people realizing the pattern. Karen tried to regain control. "If I've been strict, it's because someone has to maintain order." Quinlan rose from his seat. "Karen, enforcing real rules is one thing. Inventing them is another. You used your position to take property that wasn't yours. That's abuse of authority." Karen's face went pale. Someone near the front shouted, "Vote her out," and just like that, a motion passed. 62 in favor, 8 against. Karen's reign ended in less than 10 minutes. She stood there trembling. "You'll regret this. This community will fall apart without me." Then she grabbed her binder and stormed out. The room was silent for a moment. Then someone started clapping. Not for me, for the fact that the nightmare was over. I didn't celebrate. I just packed up my laptop and walked out into the night, the lake calm and silver under the moon. I'd proven what my uncle tried to teach me years ago: sometimes peace isn't given, it's defended. And sometimes the only way to stop a bully is to build a fence they can't cross.